I never thought my own flesh and blood would try to send me to prison over a lie. But there I was, sitting in my living room while my mother and two uncles screamed that I was a thief who had robbed my grandfather's estate before his body was even cold. They called me a predator, a manipulator, and a disgrace to the family name, all because Grandpa Silas left me his vintage watch collection and the deed to his cabin instead of splitting it between the rightful heirs, who hadn't visited him in 3 years. They told me they were filing a police report and that I had 24 hours to hand over the keys or they'd make sure I never saw the light of day again. But what they didn't know was that I had a hidden camera running during Grandpa's 80th birthday party, the very day they claimed he was mentally unfit, and that I had coerced him. Looking back at their red, angry faces, I have to ask you all, would you have stayed silent and let them bury themselves, or would you have ended the fight right then and there? I need you to tell me if I was being cruel by letting them take it as far as they did, because by the time I played that video, there was no coming back for any of them. To understand how things got this toxic, you have to understand who Grandpa Silas was. He was a self-made man, a carpenter who built a small empire of rental properties and collected rare timepieces like they were holy relics. He was sharp, witty, and had a laugh that could shake the walls of a house. But as he hit his late 70s, his health started to decline, and suddenly the vultures started circling. My mother, Sarah, and her brothers, Mark and David, hadn't checked on him for years unless they needed a loan. I was the only one who lived 10 minutes away. I was the one who took him to his chemo appointments, the one who made sure his fridge was full, and the one who sat with him for hours listening to stories about the war and his first apprenticeship. To me, he wasn't a bank account. He was my hero. But to my mom and uncles, he was a ticking clock attached to a fortune. They started showing up more frequently toward the end, always bringing legal documents for him to sign under the guise of helping him manage his affairs. Grandpa wasn't stupid. He saw right through them. He used to tell me, "Kid, they're waiting for the leaves to fall so they can grab the branches, but they forget I'm the one who planted the tree." The tension really started to boil over during his 80th birthday party. It was a big affair at his house, and for once, the whole family was there. My uncles were acting like devoted sons, hovering over him, while my mom was busy eyeing the antique furniture and whispering to her brothers about the value of the property in today's market. They didn't realize I had set up several high-definition, 360-degree cameras around the main hall. I told everyone it was to capture the memories since it was a milestone birthday, but Grandpa had actually pulled me aside that morning and asked me to make sure I recorded everything, especially his private conversations. He knew they were going to corner him. Throughout the night, I watched on my phone's feed as Uncle Mark tried to lead Grandpa into the study to talk about updating the will for tax purposes, and I saw my mother's face turn into a mask of pure greed when Grandpa told her he wasn't selling the cabin. The party ended with them all acting like a happy family for the photos, but the air was thick with resentment. 6 months later, Grandpa passed away peacefully in his sleep, and that's when the real nightmare began. The day after the funeral, the lawyer called us all in. When the will was read, the room went dead silent. Grandpa had left his primary residence and a modest inheritance to his children, but the bulk of his liquid assets, his prized watch collection worth nearly 6 figures, and the deed to his beloved mountain cabin were left entirely to me. My mother stood up so fast her chair flipped over. She accused me of elder abuse. Uncle David claimed I must have drugged him or forced him to change the will when he wasn't in his right mind. They spent the next month mounting a campaign of absolute terror against me. They called my employer and told them I was a thief. They posted on Facebook that I had stolen from a dying old man. It got so bad that I couldn't even go to the grocery store without a neighbor giving me the side-eye. They eventually hired a high-priced lawyer and served me with a lawsuit, claiming that on the day of his 80th birthday, Grandpa was suffering from advanced dementia and that I had manipulated him into signing a codicil to his will in a private room. They had even coached a witness, a disgruntled former nurse of his, to say he didn't know what year it was that night. So that was the trap they set for me. They were willing to lie, suborn perjury, and destroy my entire life just to get their hands on a cabin and some watches. They thought they had me cornered because I was young and didn't have the money for a long legal battle. But they forgot about the cameras. Before I tell you the absolute chaos that erupted when I finally showed my hand, I want you to pause and think about this. If your own parents and siblings turned on you for money, would you try to reconcile, or would you burn the bridge down to the ground? Drop a comment right now and tell me. Am I the villain for recording them, or were they the villains for forcing my hand? The big showdown happened at a mandatory mediation session. My mother and uncles were sitting across the table with their lawyer looking smug. They offered me a deal. Give up the cabin and the watches, and they drop the criminal charges they were threatening. My mom actually had the nerve to say, "We're doing this for your own good, honey. We don't want to see you in a jumpsuit." I just sat there, heart hammering in my chest, and pulled out my laptop. I told them I had some supplementary evidence from the 80th birthday party that might clarify Grandpa's mental state. Their lawyer scoffed, saying a few clips of him blowing out candles wouldn't change the medical testimony. Then I hit play. The video wasn't just of the party. I had edited together a sequence of events from that night. The first clip showed Grandpa in his study, crystal clear, speaking directly into the camera I'd hidden on the bookshelf. He looked right into the lens and said, "It's my 80th birthday. I am of sound mind, and I know exactly what my children are planning. They think I'm fatting, but I'm sharper than the lot of them." My uncles turned pale. The next clip was even more damning. It showed Uncle Mark and Uncle David cornering Grandpa in that same study later that night. You could hear them clearly. Mark was saying, "Dad, just sign this. It's just a power of attorney update. You don't need to read the fine print." Grandpa replied, "Mark, I know this is a transfer of the cabin deed. I'm not signing it. I'm giving it to the one person who actually cares if I'm breathing." Then, the video showed my mother entering the room. She didn't look like a grieving daughter. She looked like a shark. She told Grandpa that if he didn't sign the papers, they would put him in the cheapest, most rundown assisted living facility they could find and make sure I was never allowed to visit. The room where we were sitting went ice cold. Their lawyer looked like he wanted to crawl under the table, but the final blow was yet to come. The video ended with a clip from the end of the night where Grandpa and I were sitting on the porch. He looked at me and said, "I know they're going to come for you when I'm gone, kid. Use the footage. Let them show the world who they really are before you stop them. It's my final gift to you." The silence in that mediation room was deafening. My mother started sobbing, but not because she was sorry. She was sobbing because she knew she'd lost. Their lawyer immediately asked for a private sidebar with his clients, and 10 minutes later, they withdrew the lawsuit entirely. But I wasn't done. I told them that if they ever contacted me again, or if they didn't publicly retract the lies they told my employer and the community, I would post the entire unedited video to YouTube and send it to every person in our extended family and their respective professional circles. The aftermath was swift. My uncles are now fighting with each other over who has to pay their lawyers' fees, and my mother has been effectively excommunicated from the local social groups she valued so much because the truth eventually leaked out. I kept the cabin, and I kept the watches. Every time I look at the one on my wrist, I'm reminded that the truth doesn't just set you free. It can be a powerful weapon when used at the right time. I lost my family that day, but I realized I never really had one to begin with. They were just people waiting for a man to die, while I was the only one who actually loved him. It's been a year since all of this went down, and I still get the occasional flying monkey relative calling me to say I should forgive and forget because family is everything. But I just look at that video and remember the look in my mother's eyes when she threatened her own father. Some things can't be forgiven, and some bridges are meant to stay burnt. If you enjoyed this story and think I did the right thing by filming the birthday party, please give this video a like. It really helps the channel grow and lets me know you're on my side. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next crazy update or story from the depths of the internet. And finally, I want to hear from you. What would you have done if you found out your parents were trying to scam your grandparents? Let's talk about it in the comments. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you all in the next story.